Hello everyone, this is Eye on Africa for Friday, February 11th. Here are the headlines. Political uncertainty in Libya as the country finds itself with two prime ministers and both refusing to recognize one another. The path to elections now more unclear than ever. Thousands of refugees in Nigeria are being told to go home as authorities close camps that house internally displaced people. They say the security situation has improved enough, but reports on the ground suggest otherwise. And we'll take you to Benin as our reporters investigate the dangerous world of clandestine health centers, an entire network of people pretending to be doctors, examining patients, and prescribing treatments. That report coming up. But we begin with more political instability in Libya. There are now two prime ministers in the country after the House of Representatives picked Fathi Bashagha to replace Abdulhamid Dbeibah, but the latter, who is backed by the United Nations, has vowed not to back down. And all of this has thrown the plan for elections into even more disarray. Camille Dedek has the latest.
In an attempt to resolve the ongoing political crisis in Libya, the incumbent Prime Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibah has pledged to draft a new election law. This after the former Minister of the Interior, Fathi Bashagha, was nominated as National Prime Minister by Libya's regional parliament in the east, a nomination Dbeibah refuses to recognise. He insists he'll only cede power to a democratically elected government.
This is our roadmap to elections. Whatever the reasons, the elections were pushed back. We can't pass a law that nobody agrees on. It's better to not be a candidate, and as such, I won't be putting myself forward.
On Friday, Fathi Bashagha landed in Tripoli and, despite the divisions his nomination has triggered, assured that he would be a unifying force for Libya.
The next government will be for everyone and will include everyone. We will hold out our hands to everyone without exception.
This isn't the first time Libya has had two prime ministers at the same time. When the country was plunged into civil war, two PMs vied for power from 2014 to 2016. But despite the political turmoil, the most pressing question for many is the failure of the state to address the country's economic crisis.
People struggle to make ends meet. The cost of living is obscene. The state's budget is billions, while citizens have no hope whatsoever.
Libya has been at peace for over a year after a ceasefire was brokered by the UN in October 2020.
The United Nations says there is a risk that South Sudan will be back at war. The organization sees a threat of interethnic violence and political infighting that would undo progress made in the peace process. Ever since the country's independence a decade ago, the nation has struggled to find stability. Some 400,000 lives were lost in a 5-year-long civil war. The UN says the failure to form a unified armed forces command, as well as political instability, has led to this heightened risk of violence. The death toll from Cyclone Batsirai in Madagascar has jumped to 120. Those are the latest numbers from the country's disaster relief agency. The storm hit the southeastern coast of Madagascar on Saturday before moving west. Of those reported deaths, 87 occurred in the Ikongo district in that impact area. Batsirai was the country's second major storm in 2 weeks after Cyclone Ana killed 55 people at the end of January. There is some good news on the pandemic front tonight. The head of the WHO says the acute phase of the pandemic could end this year. There is one caveat, though. Dr. Tedros says that will only be achieved if 70% of the global population gets vaccinated. He made those comments on a visit to Afrigen Biologics and Vaccines, a technology transfer hub that recently opened in Cape Town. The goal there is to produce a patent-free vaccine which would then be shared among low-income countries. So far, only 11% of Africa's population has been vaccinated against COVID-19.
The idea is, although we chose South Africa at the center as a global hub, the idea is to build global capacity, especially in countries, low-income countries, to have their own capacity, so the equity issue is addressed in the future. This is an investment, and that could possibly be a game changer in combating the major diseases.
Authorities in Nigeria are urging thousands of internally displaced people to go back home. According to them, the security situation in Borno State has sufficiently improved to allow them to close a refugee camp in the city of Maiduguri. But reports on the ground suggest otherwise, with aid groups refusing to send members to several parts of that state. Charles Pellegrin has the details.
It was a day that many had been waiting for, homecoming. They were forced to run away from a jihadist insurrection, and Nigerian authorities are now inviting them to return.
Ina murna da farin ciki sosai da zamu je mu zauna kuma muna roƙon Allah da cewa ya zanto cewa idan muka koma garin mu zaman har abada zamu ba zamu ƙara yin hijira mu koma zuwa nan da zama ba.
Provincial authorities are eager for the move, with a plan to close all refugee camps by 2026. In Maiduguri, 7 of 13 existing camps have already been shut. This represents 100 to 150,000 people. First and foremost, the aim is to put an end to an over-reliance on humanitarian aid by getting people to produce their own food once again. But some reports show a different picture, with many areas in Borno State that still aren't secure, with aid groups unwilling to go there. In November, at least 31 Nigerian soldiers were killed outside Maiduguri in an ambush, and some are still willing to take that risk.
Mu ba jin tsoron yaran nan muke ba balle mu ce ba za mu tafi neman abinci ba. Abinda muke bukata yanzu gwamnati ya duba mana a bude mana jeji can inda za mu je mu nemi abinci mu ciyar da kanmu gaba kuma mu ciyar da.
No fear and perhaps no other option. In one of the city's camps, residents haven't received any aid in 7 months.
The death toll following a terror attack in northern Benin on Tuesday has risen to 9. A parks patrol hit 2 IEDs in the W National Park, killing 5 park rangers, 2 park officials, 1 soldier, and a French trainer. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, but the country's military has ramped up its presence in the area following jihadist attacks last year. 4 civilians are dead after being caught in crossfire in Burkina Faso. The gunfire came from French troops backed by an attack helicopter who were responding to clashes with militants. 10 of them were also killed in the incident near the border with Mali. In a statement, the French army said it regretted the loss of lives that occurred, quote, despite all measures taken by the forces on the ground. The French army says the terrorists killed in the clashes were involved in several attacks last year, one of which left 53 Burkinabe police officers dead. Guinea-Bissau is still dealing with the aftermath of a failed coup attempt 10 days ago. The country's president, Umaro Sissoco Embalo, accused a former Navy chief as well as 2 accomplices of being behind the attempt to overthrow him. It all happened on February 1st. Armed men attacked government buildings while Embalo was chairing a cabinet meeting, leading to a 5-hour gun battle and 11 deaths. One of the men has significant links to the drug trade. The president believes that is the reason behind the attack earlier this month.
I'm not saying that politicians are behind it. They were military. It's people who have a connection with the big drug cartels, and it's public knowledge. A few of them, 3 or 4. Among them, the former chief of staff of the Navy, who is in prison. He was even incarcerated in the United States. He is involved in this. Then there was Chamiyala, a certain Papis Jeme, all of them once imprisoned in the US.
Let's take you back now to Benin for a France 24 investigation into the dangerous world of clandestine health centers. People, sometimes who work in the medical field, taking on the role of doctors, examining patients and prescribing treatments. Authorities are cracking down. Since the beginning of the year, 20 illegal health centers have been shut down. Emmanuel Soji and Priscilla Olympio have this report.
To escape detection, the homes of fake doctors are well hidden. There are no signs indicating the illegal services on offer. The fraudsters consult discreetly or travel to patients' homes in the neighborhood of Porto Novo in Benin.
It's word of mouth. You are told that someone can treat you at home. He is very good. I'll give you his number and he will come see you.
This man wants to speak anonymously. He has been treating his patients covertly for 7 years. In reality, he is a caregiver trained on the job in a private clinic.
I know quite a lot about healthcare because every day I'm confronted with different situations when I'm at the clinic. I look at the way that the doctor does it, and when I'm outside, I do it the same way. After the treatment, if it requires medication, I also write prescriptions.
One of his regular patients has been suffering for about 8 days from fever caused by malaria. He doesn't want to go to the hospital. He says they're expensive and too risky.
There is the price, and with COVID right now, everyone is sick. We are afraid of being contaminated, but it's expensive.
This woman almost died after her home care treatment gone wrong. She survived after being rushed to the hospital.
As soon as he finished, I felt bad. At home, I lost a lot of blood. Other people had to help me.
Often, it is only after trying a range of illegal treatments that patients resort to seeking out proper healthcare facilities. At this point, they're often very ill.
Of all the patients I see in a year, if we were to say how many go through these nurses, I would say at least 70 to 80%.
According to the latest figures published by the Beninese Ministry of Health, in 2018, 70% of private healthcare centers are illegal.
And that does it for Eye on Africa. Thank you very much for watching. Live from Paris continues with Julia Kim right after the break.
Join us here on France 24 for our special coverage of the mother of all elections here in France, the presidential election 2022. The campaign will have our special envoys on the campaign trail. Across the globe, we'll have the latest polling, the best analysis every week here on France 24.
France 2022, the campaign on France 24 and France24.com.